Olá, meu nome é Nelly e minha língua nativa é português. Hi, my name's Nelly and I'm technically British, but my mum is Brazilian and my dad was English, but I was born and raised in Zimbabwe. So, yeah, my background is a little bit muddled, but my ethnicity, as they on my passport, it's just British. But yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, so, what languages do you speak?
I speak English fluently and Brazilian Portuguese semi fluently. Yeah, I learned it from my mum when I was growing up. Just we had a massive Brazilian community back in Zimbabwe when I was a kid. So it just kind of it was literally just the language that I grew up with, and we all spoke it. My dad spoke it at home, and my nursery rhymes were in Portuguese, and everything that was just around me. Um, and then English was just part of school life and outside of the home life, really.
So, like an informal and then a formal, like education on.
Yeah, it was very informal. It was just kind of part of what you learn. Like, they were just the kids that I was playing with spoke Portuguese, so therefore I had to speak it to be able to play with them. My mum spoke it when she was, talking to me in the house, and my dad spoke it with her when he came home. Um, and he had business partners in Portuguese, so it was always kind of around me. And then when I started going to like primary school, it was we were an English speaking country, so everything was taught to me in English, and everything outside of like my home and play environment was English. So I kind of grew up with both of them simultaneously. Um, but then as the Brazilian community shifted out of Zimbabwe, I did sort of start to lose it, and English has definitely become my predominant language, and Portuguese is kind of like this the second thing that sits on the shoulder, like over here, like, hey, I'm still here.
So, do you speak to your mum like in English?
Yes, oddly enough, we do. We speak in English quite a lot, unless it's something that we're getting like worked up about, like something I'm really excited about, or something she's quite angry about, or if she's sad, then we talk in Portuguese. I find when we're doing something quite emotive, then we'll swap back to what we consider natural, or like we try and pull back to home.
Yeah. Okay, so does your grandparents, do they speak English as well?
So, my dad's parents spoke only English, and my mum's parents spoke only Portuguese. I only ever met my grandma from my mum's side, so I only spoke Portuguese with her. I only met her the once. And my dad's side was all English, and that was easy enough as it was. But yeah, just I don't meet a lot of older Portuguese people. Sometimes when I do, I find they can understand me, but I feel like I'm being laughed at a little bit because my accent, both in English and Portuguese, is kind of muddled. And I feel like my grammar isn't where it should be. So I feel like people who speak it very fluently, especially like older people, like my mum's friends and stuff back home, will kind of look at me and be like, "Ooh, okay, you're trying, sweetheart. That's okay."
A for effort.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it felt like.
Okay, so what do you love about like Portuguese?
I love that it kind of makes me feel special. I didn't grow up in England, but that's my nationality. Like that's what it says. But I feel this massive disassociation between British and English culture than to what I am, because I didn't grow up here and it's not a part of me, and I can't really take this claim on Zimbabwean culture, even though I was born and raised there. My parents aren't Zimbabwean. I wasn't really involved in all aspects of the culture there, and I didn't grow up in Brazil, so I also find it a bit difficult to say, yeah, I am Brazilian. But being able to speak Portuguese, even at the level that I speak it, it just kind of reminds me that yes, there is, you still have these really great roots, and you still have these really great traditions, from your family tree inside of you, and you can hold on to that, and that's okay.
Yeah, for sure, because it's such like a rich, history, culture.
Yeah, like, growing up, I was it's a very mess. People are like, oh, where are you from? Your accent's so weird. I'm like, well, I'm like half Brazilian and half English, but I was actually born in Africa, so I'm kind of all these things. It's like, okay, but what are you? It's like, I don't really know.
Yeah, these different things.
Yeah, I don't feel British enough to say, oh, I'm British. Like this big thing with like a lot of people who come to England feel like, oh yeah, I can say I'm British, but I can't really say I'm English, because that's like this whole I am English, and I'm not quite there. So I just find it, being able to have that language just reminds me that I do have somewhere that I can call mine.
So how long have you been living in the UK?
12, 13, 14, 17. Coming up to 6 years.
Mm.
Yeah, we moved here 6 years ago, but before that we had been coming every Christmas before my dad passed away. So yeah, it's always kind of been Dad's home, and now it's kind of my home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does your mom live here as well?
Yeah, she does. She doesn't like it as much, but it's home for her now as well, so yeah.
Yeah, well, have you guys ever considered, like...
She's considered it, but she's been away from it for so long, and she's lost so much family back home. She only really has her niece and nephew left, and she's not really close with them, and I don't really know them, and my sister doesn't know them at all. So she feels like this is where she has her most connections, her strongest things now. So yeah, she also feels a bit lost, but she's happy enough with it. But it sucks a little bit.
As long as you guys are together, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what keeps her the happiest. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't really have any more questions to really ask. Let's see. So if you meet like other Brazilian or Portuguese people like in the UK,
yeah,
how is it like conversing with each other?
When I meet Portuguese people from Portugal, I'm like, oh hey, yeah, I'm Brazilian, and there's this thing with Portuguese people where they kind of feel like Brazilian Portuguese isn't real Portuguese, so they kind of already have this stigma against me being Brazilian. And then when we try and speak and my grammar is bad, but there are certain words in Brazilian Portuguese are different to Portuguese, so they're picking up on that as well as my strange accent. But most of them are like, they're happy enough to be like, oh yeah, that's cool, yeah, I understand you, you understand me. I haven't met a lot of Brazilian people actually in England, which is I think I've met one, maybe two, and they've always been so nice, and they're so happy to speak in Portuguese with me whenever I want, and they're happy to swap back to English if they can see that I'm struggling, or like happy to tell me a word in Portuguese if I don't know it. So yeah, there's always, whenever I meet someone who does have that language, I do try. And I think that's what keeps me kind of going. It's like, yeah, there's always going to be someone who speaks it. You could keep on doing it. But yeah, it's nice just to meet someone who does speak it, and it kind of makes you feel like, oh, I have something in common. I'm kind of like you too. But yeah, it's nice enough.
Yeah, well, in the future, if you have children, would you want them to speak like Portuguese or be able to speak Portuguese?
Yes. If I have kids, I want them to be able to have that as a part of their history as well, like a part of who they are, because I had it so rich when I was younger, and I've really lost that. Now that I'm older, I feel like I don't have that community, and I don't have that, like those traditions. I don't feel like I'm part of that culture, but I definitely want to be able to provide that sense of like unity and community for my children. My partner doesn't speak Portuguese, but he wants to learn as well. So we've always kind of joked like, oh yeah, if we have kids, we'll sing them Portuguese nursery rhymes, and we'll teach them Portuguese together, and it'll be great. But yeah, it's definitely something I want my kids to have for so many reasons. Like firstly, it looks great on a CV if you can speak more than one language. Like let's all be honest, in the real world, it does. And you just have so many more opportunities, and it allows you to be able to speak. It's only Portuguese, but there's such a large Portuguese community, in London and further outside of the UK as well. I just think it's something that if you can have someone have a second language, it's just so good in so many ways. I definitely would teach my kids that, and I would definitely try and get them involved in a community if I would be so lucky enough as to find one. Yeah.